Hello and welcome. My book, I Have Left British and Hollywood Movies, is all about education, schools, colleges, languages, the clash of languages between Persian and English, and finally, the introduction of English by the British in the Hyderabad Dominion. On reading the book, some of the readers questioned me as to why I did not elaborate about the efforts made by Ibrahim Quli Qutb in establishing schools in Golconda way back in the 16th century. Let me tell you that the historians of Deccan did not record any of the events pertaining to Ibrahim Quli Qutb Shah during his period of exile in Vijayanagar kingdom. He was in exile for a period of 7 years and he was considered a royal guest at the court of the Vijayanagar kingdom that was officially ruled by Aliya Rama Raya. It is said that he was a royal guest. So, since the Deccan historians did not mention any of these things, any of the events, we need to go back to Vijayanagar kingdom, the books of those days, and then see if something can be derived from them. But unfortunately, the Battle of Talikota have destroyed most of the things. This Hampi is considered one of the important pilgrimage, not only pilgrimage, but it's a historical site. It's a international heritage site. Many scholars and historians visit the place and they have gone into extensive research of that period. Whatever documents they could get, these documents are mainly in languages like Tulu, Kannada and Telugu. They collected some of them, some fragments of them, assembled, and later some of the authors, they came and they published some of these things in the later publications, in the recent publications over the last 30-40 years. So what we learned from them is Ibrahim Quli, what he learned in Vijayanagar kingdom, he developed a love for language, love for Telugu. He dressed like a Telugu man, he ate Telugu food, and he was fond of everything Telugu. And his greeting style and his habits, everything changed in Vijayanagar style. So much so, the people of Vijayanagar kingdom admired him and they called him lovingly Abhirama, that is dear Rama. Some authors say he has taken the name of Abhirama to marry a Hindu lady. We do not know the truth about it. But one thing is true, that he was very fond of Telugu culture. So during this period, he had the opportunity of visiting some of the temples. And what he saw there, he totally changed his attitude towards the temple. He learned for the first time that temples were not only the place of worship, but they were the place for imparting education. They were the centers of learning. He found on either side of the temple there were many chambers meant for classrooms. The bigger the temple, the higher the type of education. The education was from basic to the highest. As he traveled throughout the country of Vijayanagar kingdom, he found even the tiniest village with about 20 to 25 houses had a small temple and some students were there, a teacher along with a teacher imparting the basic education, the primary education. Any student wanting to go ahead and learn more, they had to come to one of the major cities, towns, where a bigger temple is located, and there he needs to seek an admission. The ladies were not excluded. They had separate chambers. Apart from regular education, they were taught music, arts, and many other dramatics and artistic skills. So, after going through, he found the real meaning of temple is not the place only for worship, but it is for educating people. The higher education in those days included mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and for ladies, all sorts of musical instruments and dancing. Kuchipudi dancing was one of the famous dances which was being conducted there, which was being taught. Even the elders were not excluded. There were periodic cultural activities for the elders in the evenings, like Harikatha, the stories from the Mahabharata, Ramayana, etc. So that, the elderly people get some sort of inspiration from them. So, Ibrahim Quli, when he became a sultan, when he came back to Golconda, on the same lines, a systemic form of education was established. I forgot to mention, in the Vijayanagar kingdom, even the Muslims were taken care of. The Vijayanagar kings, they built schools and libraries beside the mosque, and religious studies were taken care of in the mosque, and readers who want to pursue higher education, they had all sorts of libraries where a number of books in Persian and Arabic were stored. All these things were destroyed during the War of Talikota. So on the same lines, Ibrahim Quli established a systemic type of education. He opened schools. He did not open schools in temples or mosques, but in the city area, in some localities, some important centers in the city. He established schools and he made the primary education compulsory. And the greatest thing was, Telugu was introduced as a subject. He was fond of Telugu so much. Apart from Persian and Arabic, Telugu was taught in schools. And people coming from district areas, there were hostels for them. And for the poor people, the stationery were given free. And there was no cost of education. There was no fee. Fee was only for the higher education, not for the basic education. But the same trend continued by the later sultans. The Telugu was not that much appreciated during the reign of Muhammad Quli, his son. But during the period of Abul Hasan Tanesha, the Telugu again rose to prominence due to his two ministers, Akkanna and Madanna, who were Telugu Brahmins. So friends, what happened? The siege of Golconda by Aurangzeb, it has destroyed everything. All schools, libraries, everything, the buildings, the palaces, everything was razed to ground. So that was the end of that. Sultan Ibrahim Quli Qutb is considered one of the greatest rulers of Golconda. Many Portuguese and foreign travelers have also documented certain events pertaining to his life. And there is a beautiful book, Education in Karnataka Through the Ages, by Dr. Jyotsna Kamath. It's a very interesting book. And some of the images have been taken from her book. I wish to acknowledge and thank her for all the information given in the book. It was very useful for me in making this video. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Bye.